I'll expand the first part of your story into approximately 900 words, with simple language, natural tone, and human-centric focus, while avoiding common names and keeping it YouTube-friendly. The massive alien fleet appeared suddenly at the edge of our solar system, their ships casting long shadows across the blackness of space. It was an ordinary Tuesday when everything changed. Earth's Unified Defense Command, a network of stations spanning from the Moon to Mars, lit up with warnings. The room fell silent as operators stared at their screens, watching as ship after ship materialized beyond Pluto's orbit. Admiral Park stood motionless before the main display, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of 100 red alert signals. He had spent 40 years in space, fought in the Mars Rebellion, and commanded Earth's first interstellar mission, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Count?" he asked, his voice steady despite the hammering in his chest. "Lieutenant." Lee looked up from her console, eyes wide. 327 vessels, sir, each one larger than Osaka City. Energy readings off the charts. The Admiral nodded. He had trained his whole life for this moment, though many had called him paranoid. Earth's nations had unified. Their defense forces just 15 years ago, after decades of Park and others warning that we weren't alone in the universe, and that not everything out there would be friendly. "Open all channels to the fleet," Park ordered, "and get me the Security Council." Within minutes, screens around the command center showed the faces of Earth's 7 security counselors. Some had clearly been woken from sleep, others interrupted from meetings, but all wore the same expression of controlled fear. "Madam President," Park addressed the head counselor, "we have first contact, and it doesn't look peaceful." As if on cue, every communication device on Earth, from military channels to civilian phones, crackled with the same message. The cue, aliens broadcast in perfect English, their voice unnaturally smooth, as if multiple beings spoke as one. "Humans of Earth. Your resources and position are required for the expansion of the collective. Your surrender will minimize losses. Resistance will result in your extinction. You have 6 Earth rotations to prepare for our arrival and integration. Further communication is unnecessary." The Security Council erupted into panicked discussion. Plans for evacuation, negotiations, immediate surrender. Voices overlapped as humanity's leaders grappled with the unthinkable. Admiral Park cleared his throat, silencing the virtual room. "With respect, counselors, I recommend a different approach." "We're listening, Admiral," the President said. "We show them that humans don't scare easily. We've prepared defenses they don't know about. Project Sunspear is operational. The Moon. Batteries are ready. Mars defense grid is at 90% capacity." A counselor from the Eastern Alliance leaned forward. "You want us to fight a technologically superior force. That's suicide." Park shook his head. "Not fight, not yet. But we don't lie down either. We draw a line." After 3 hours of debate, the Council voted, 5-2 in favor of Park's plan. The Admiral returned to the command center where his team waited anxiously. He nodded once and Lieutenant Lee activated the Global Defense Network. Across Earth, hidden weapons platforms hummed to life. On the Moon, concealed hangars opened to reveal row upon row of fighters. On Mars, colonists moved into underground bunkers as defense systems emerged from the red soil. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," Park ordered. When the connection established, he stood straight, looking directly into the camera. He wasn't just speaking for the military now, but for all 7 billion humans who called Earth home. "This is Admiral Park of Earth Unified Defense. We acknowledge your presence and your message. Now you will acknowledge ours. You have 24 hours to reconsider your position and leave our system. After that, we will respond with full force. Earth is our home. We will defend it. The choice of how this ends is yours." He nodded to Lee, who cut the transmission. For several minutes, there was only silence in the command center. Then, through the speakers, came a sound that chilled every person in the room. Laughter. Not human laughter, but something that mimicked it, like dozens of voices trying to create one emotion they didn't understand. "Their response, sir," Lee whispered. Park's jaw tightened. "Begin evacuation protocols for civilian populations. Move all non-essential personnel to the bunker networks. Contact Dr. Kim. Tell her to prepare Project Prometheus for full deployment. Around the world, people received emergency alerts. Many panicked, but most followed the protocols that had been drilled into them since childhood. Trains filled, with families headed toward mountain shelters. Ships carried others to underwater havens. The wealthy boarded rockets bound for the moon colonies. In his private quarters, Admiral Park looked at the small photo of his family, his wife who had died in the lunar accident, his son now studying medicine in the Mars colony. He tucked the picture into his uniform pocket. Lieutenant Lee appeared at his door. "Sir, Dr. Kim reports Prometheus is ready, and we've detected movement. The alien fleet has begun advancing toward Earth." Park nodded. "Then we've made our position clear, and so have they." He returned to the command center, where the mood had shifted from fear to grim determination. On screens around the room, Earth's defenders watched as the enormous alien ships began their slow, confident approach through the outer solar system. They moved like predators, certain of easy prey. "They think we're weak," Park said to no one in particular. "They think we'll break." He looked around at the men and women of Earth's defense force, seeing in their eyes not terror, but resolve. "Let's show them how wrong they are." Behind the scenes, Earth wasn't as defenseless as the aliens believed. While citizens rushed to shelters and the world's leaders addressed their frightened nations, a different kind of activity was happening far from public view. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility known only to a few hundred people worldwide, Dr. Kim stood before a wall of screens. Her team of scientists and engineers worked frantically around her, their faces lit by the blue glow of monitors. None had slept in the 30 hours since first contact. "Power levels stable at 87%, called out a young engineer from his station. "Solar collectors operating beyond expected capacity," Dr. Kim nodded, her eyes never leaving the main display, showing the alien fleet's steady approach. For 20 years, she had led Project Prometheus, the most secret weapons development program in human history. What had started as theoretical research after the discovery of unusual energy patterns near Jupiter had become Earth's greatest hope. "They're scanning us," a technician announced. "Orbital sweeps, full spectrum analysis." Dr. Kim allowed herself a small smile. "Let them look. They won't find what matters." When humans had first ventured to the moon in the late 20th century, no one imagined that 70 years later, the far side would house Earth's most sophisticated military installation. Hidden from both Earth and alien eyes, the Artemis base extended 3 kilometers beneath the lunar surface. Its commander, Colonel Han, watched the readiness reports flow in from stations across the solar system. "Lunar batteries at full charge," he confirmed over the secure channel to Admiral Park. "All 27 platforms showing green. We can fire on your command." Similar reports came in from Mars, where the human colonies had implemented their long-planned Ghost Protocol. To any observer, the settlements appeared abandoned, suffering catastrophic life support failures. In reality, 10,000 colonists had relocated to shielded underground complexes, while the defense grid disguised itself as mining equipment. On Earth, in the mountain headquarters of Unified Command, Admiral Park reviewed the global situation. Screens surrounding him showed evacuation progress, defense readiness, and live feeds from space telescopes tracking the alien armada. His senior staff stood nearby, faces tense but determined. "They're monitoring all our standard communication channels," reported the intelligence officer, "intercepting television, radio, internet traffic." "And what are they seeing?" Park asked. "Exactly what we want them to: panic, disorganization, religious broadcasts about the end times, social media flooded with conspiracy theories, and goodbye." "Messages," Park nodded. "Perfect." This was humanity's first advantage. The aliens were seeing only what appeared on public channels. They were watching news reporters break down crying on air, politicians making contradictory statements, civilians fighting over supplies. They were intercepting military communications filled with confusion and conflicting orders, all carefully orchestrated. In reality, Earth's response followed plans developed and refined over decades. When the first hint of possible intelligent life had been detected near Alpha Centauri years ago, governments had secretly begun preparing. Not just with weapons, but with strategy. In a secure bunker beneath Washington, the UN Security Council reconvened. Through encrypted channels that bounced signals through obsolete satellites the aliens weren't monitoring, Earth's leaders assessed their options. Dr. Kim reports Prometheus is fully operational, the president informed the council. The system can harness 30% of solar output through the collector network. That's enough energy to power weapons beyond anything we've publicly acknowledged. The Japanese representative leaned forward. And the aliens don't know? Their scans show only our known power stations and military installations, the science advisor confirmed. The Prometheus collectors are disguised as standard solar research platforms. The weapon emplacements are hidden inside commercial satellites and space debris. Outside the bunker networks and military installations, ordinary people found ways to contribute. In small towns and big cities, citizens implemented community support systems that had been incorporated into school curriculums and public training programs for years. What looked like chaos to alien observers was often organized resistance, forming beneath the surface. In a farm community in the Korean countryside, locals converted their underground storage facilities into extended shelters. Children helped carry supplies while elders organized sleeping arrangements and food distribution. Similar scenes played out worldwide, humanity preparing not just to survive an attack, but to endure occupation if necessary. Back at Prometheus, Control Dr. Kim received a direct call from Admiral Park. The aliens have crossed Neptune's orbit, he informed her. Their approach speed is increasing. Intelligence suggests they're growing confident after observing our public channels. Dr. Kim checked the status of her system once more. We're ready, Admiral. The full network is operational, and targeting systems are aligned. On your command, we can show them exactly what humanity is capable of. Not yet, Park replied. Let them come closer. Let them think we're easy prey. As night fell across Asia, the alien fleet passed Uranus, their massive ships gliding through the darkness of space like predators. They transmitted new messages to Earth, detailed instructions for surrender, specifications for landing zones their ships would use, demands for resources they would take. In response, Earth's official channels broadcast increasingly desperate pleas for mercy. Religious leaders called for prayer. Military commanders issued contradictory orders. The picture painted for alien observers was clear: a planet in disarray, unable to mount a unified defense. But in bunkers and bases around the world, humanity waited. Engineers made final adjustments to weapons systems. Pilots sat in cockpits, running system checks. Scientists monitored the approaching fleet, calculating trajectories and vulnerabilities. Dr. Kim gathered her team for one final briefing before taking their positions at the Prometheus control stations. For generations, humans looked to the stars and wondered if we were alone, she told them. Now we know we're not, and we know not everyone out there is friendly, but we've prepared for this day. We've built something they can't imagine. She looked at each face in the room, determined, focused, afraid, but resolute. These aliens think they're hunting us, she continued. They don't realize they've walked into our trap. When Admiral Park gives the order, we'll show them exactly. What happens when you threaten Earth? Across the solar system, humanity waited, hidden strength coiled like a spring. The aliens advanced, unaware that their easy conquest was about to become the fight of their lives. As the alien fleet crossed Saturn's orbit, the massive armada moved with the confident grace of hunters who had never known failure. Their sleek vessels carved through the darkness of space, engines glowing with strange energies that human science could barely comprehend. In command centers across Earth and its colonies, screens tracked their slow, deliberate approach. Admiral Park stood in the Lunar Command Center, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of the solar system. Officers moved around him with practiced efficiency, their earlier fear replaced by focused determination. Through the observation dome above, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the blackness of space. Fleet position, Park asked quietly. Lieutenant Jin looked up from her console. Lead vessels have just passed Saturn's rings, sir, holding in attack formation. Their long-range scanners are active and focused on Earth and Mars. Park nodded. It was time. He touched the communication panel. "Get me Dr. Kim." Within seconds, the scientist's face appeared on a separate screen. She was in the Prometheus control chamber, deep beneath the Pacific. Behind her, engineers worked at their stations, monitoring the vast network of disguised weapon platforms. "We're ready, Admiral," she said before he could speak. "All 27 lunar platforms are fully charged. The targeting systems are aligned. We can hit any ship in their fleet with pinpoint accuracy." Park took a deep breath. This moment would change humanity's future forever. "Target their forward scout vessel. Just one shot. Make it clean." Dr. Kim nodded, her eyes steady. "Target locked. Firing solution calculated on your command, sir." The Admiral looked around the command center. Each face showed the same resolute expression. Humanity had prepared for this day, hidden its strength, built weapons in secret. Now, they would show the aliens exactly what they were facing. "Fire," Park said quietly. Deep beneath the lunar surface, enormous capacitors released their stored energy. The power gathered from the sun through Dr. Kim's collector network surged through superconducting channels. For a brief moment, the lights in the command center dimmed. In space, nothing visible happened. No beam of light, no projectile. Just a ripple in the fabric of space itself, focused with impossible precision. The alien scout ship, a vessel larger than Earth's biggest aircraft carrier, simply disappeared. One moment it existed, the next it was gone, leaving nothing but scattered particles where a mighty warship had been. Absolute silence fell across the command center. Even the most hardened veterans stared in shock. The Prometheus weapon had performed beyond their expectations. They had vaporized one of the most advanced vessels ever encountered as easily as swatting a fly. "Energy discharge successful, Doctor," Kim reported, her voice betraying a hint of awe at what they had accomplished. "Complete molecular dissociation of the target, no secondary radiation." On the main display, the rest of the alien fleet had stopped moving. Their perfect formation wavered as ships adjusted position, clearly responding to the sudden loss of their scout. "They've halted advance," Lieutenant Jin reported, detecting massive energy fluctuations from their vessels. "They're powering weapons systems." Admiral Park nodded. Now came the most dangerous moment. Open a channel to their command ship. When the connection was established, Park stood straight, looking directly into the camera. His voice was calm, measured. "Attention, alien fleet. You have witnessed a demonstration of just one of our defensive weapons. That was one platform against one ship. We have hundreds more positioned throughout our system. This is your final warning. Withdraw immediately, or we will defend ourselves with full force." The message was transmitted in multiple formats, ensuring the aliens would understand regardless of their translation systems. For long minutes, nothing happened. The alien fleet remained motionless, hanging in space halfway between Saturn and Jupiter. Park could almost imagine their commanders arguing, reassessing, perhaps even feeling fear for the first time. Lieutenant Jin's console beeped urgently. "Sir, we're intercepting communications between their vessels. Our linguistics team is processing now." On a secondary screen, the translation appeared, "Impossible weapons capability. Intelligence assessment catastrophically wrong. Suggest immediate tactical withdrawal. Supreme War Leader Tarok demands continued advance." Park exchanged glances with his senior staff. Dissension in the alien ranks was exactly what they'd hoped for. Their show of force had accomplished its purpose, creating doubt where before there had been only certainty. "They're scanning the entire system now," Jin reported, focusing especially on the lunar installations, Mars defenses, and Earth orbit. "Let ya." "Them, look," Park said. "They won't find half of what we have." Dr. Kim's voice came through the comm system. "Admiral, Prometheus platforms are recharged and ready. All 27 lunar batteries showing green. Mars defensive grid online. We can fire again if necessary." Park nodded. "Hold position. Let them decide." Hours passed. In bunkers and shelters across Earth, billions of humans waited, watching news reports of the standoff. On Mars, colonists in their underground havens monitored the situation through secured channels. Throughout the solar system, humanity stood united, waiting to see if they would face extinction or if their warning shot had been enough. Finally, Lieutenant Jin looked up from her console, her face showing carefully controlled excitement. "Movement in the alien fleet, sir. Ships are changing formation." Everyone in the command center held their breath. They're withdrawing, Admiral. Lead vessels have turned and are accelerating away from Earth." A cheer started to rise but died when Park raised his hand. "Maintain alert status. This could be a tactical repositioning." But as minutes turned to hours, the aliens' intentions became clear. Their mighty fleet was indeed retreating, moving, back toward the outer system at steadily increasing speed. "Incoming transmission from the alien command ship," Jin announced. The message was brief. "You have demonstrated unexpected capabilities. We withdraw to reassess. This encounter is concluded. For now." Park's eyes narrowed at those final words. For now. Not a surrender, then. A strategic retreat. They would be back, perhaps with greater numbers, different weapons, new tactics. But that was a problem for another day. Today, humanity had done what many thought impossible. They had faced a technologically superior invader and forced them to reconsider. They had shown that Earth would not be an easy conquest. "Send to all commands, all colonies, all shelters," Park ordered. "Alien fleet in retreat. Maintain defensive posture. We remain at full alert." He looked out at the stars. Through the dome above, somewhere out there, the aliens were licking their wounds, wondering how they had so badly underestimated this species called human. "They'll be back," he said quietly to no one in particular. "But next time, they'll come with respect." War Leader. Tarok paced the command deck of his flagship, his four-fingered hands clasped tightly behind his back. The massive viewscreen before him showed the human solar system, with the small blue planet that had become the focus of his entire military career. Around him, his senior officers watched in silence, none willing to be the first to speak after their stunning defeat. "Show me the weapon impact again," he ordered, his voice low and dangerous. An aide quickly brought up the recording. The scout ship, one of their newest and most advanced vessels, simply vanished in a flash of light. No debris, no explosion, just gone as if it had never existed. "Impossible," Tarok muttered, though the evidence played before his eyes. Their technology was assessed at barely interplanetary. Their weapons were primitive projectiles and chemical explosives. Commander Vex, his second-in-command, finally dared to speak. "Our intelligence was clearly flawed, Supreme War Leader. The humans have technology they kept hidden, very well hidden." Tarok slammed his fist against the control panel. 10 cycles of planning. Resources that could have been used for the northern expansion, all diverted to this campaign. And now we lose a scout ship to a species that shouldn't have been able to scratch our hull plating? The bridge fell silent again. No one mentioned that it had been Tarok who pushed for this invasion, Tarok who had promised the High Council an easy victory and valuable resources, Tarok whose career would end in disgrace if they returned home with nothing. "What do the new scans show?" he asked finally. A science officer stepped forward, nervously touching the display controls. "We've detected energy signatures throughout their system, Supreme War Leader. The Moon, Mars, even some of the outer moons of Jupiter. They have weapons platforms everywhere, disguised as research stations or communication relays. And the weapon, that destroyed our scout." The science officer hesitated. "It appears to be some kind of directed energy weapon, but with properties we've never seen before. It seems to disrupt molecular bonds instantly. There's no defense in our current technology that would stop it." Tarok felt the weight of every eye on the bridge. This moment would define him, not just as a military leader but as a member of his species. Retreat meant shame. Advance meant possible destruction. Back on Earth, Admiral Park received reports from observers tracking the alien fleet. Their ships had been stationary for hours, neither advancing nor retreating. In the war room beneath the Rocky Mountains, Earth Security Council had gathered again, their faces grim. "What are they doing?" the President asked. "Debating their options," Park replied. "We've given them something they didn't expect. They're reassessing." "And if they decide to continue?" the Russian representative asked. Park's face remained impassive. "Then we fight. Project Prometheus can target multiple ships simultaneously. The Mars defense grid is fully operational. Every colony, every station is armed and ready." Dr. Kim's voice came through on the communication channel. Admiral, we've completed analysis of their ship designs based on our scans. They have vulnerabilities, particularly in their propulsion systems. If they attack, we can target those. Areas specifically, the President leaned forward. And casualties on both sides? Park met her gaze steadily. If they continue their advance, we'll have no choice but to destroy as many of their ships as necessary to convince them to withdraw. There will be alien casualties, but if we hesitate, there will be human casualties, potentially billions. Heavy silence fell over the room. For all their preparation, all their hidden weapons, this was still humanity's first encounter with an advanced alien species. And it was happening as a confrontation that might end in large-scale death on both sides. We should try communicating again, the European Councillor suggested. Perhaps offer terms, find some middle ground. Park shook his head. With respect, Councillor, offering terms now would signal weakness. We've shown them our strength. They need to make the next move. On the alien flagship, Tarok had reached his decision. Pride warred with tactical reality in his mind, but in the end, he was a soldier first, and no soldier led his troops into certain death without good reason. Prepare a message to their command, he ordered. Tell them we are withdrawing to the outer system to reassess. This engagement is paused. Commander Vex stepped closer, speaking quietly. Supreme War Leader, the High Council will view this as a failure. Your position, my position is irrelevant compared to the lives of our troops, Tarok snapped. Then, more quietly, besides, this isn't a retreat, Commander. It's a strategic repositioning. We've learned valuable information about an enemy we clearly underestimated. We will withdraw, study what we've learned, and return with a strategy that accounts for their hidden strengths. Vex nodded, relief visible in his posture. And the Council? I will deal with the Council, Tarok said grimly. Prepare the fleet for withdrawal. Maintain scanning of their defenses as we go. I want every piece of data we can gather. As the alien fleet began to move, changing formation from attack pattern to retreat, celebrations broke out across Earth. In the command center, Admiral Park watched the screens with cautious relief. Lieutenant Jin reported from her station. They're transmitting a message, sir. The alien communication was brief, but the final words, for now, hung in the air after the transmission ended. They'll be back, Park said to his staff, but we've bought ourselves time. And next time they'll know what they're facing. In shelters across Earth, humans emerged to news of the alien withdrawal. Children who had huddled in fear with their parents now looked up at the sky with different eyes, still filled with wonder, but now with the knowledge that humans weren't alone, and that humanity could stand against whatever the universe sent their way. In his private quarters, Admiral Park finally allowed himself a moment of exhaustion. They had faced extinction and survived, for now. But the wider universe had just become much more complicated, and humanity would need to prepare for whatever came next. Tarok, staring at the blue planet through a viewport as his fleet accelerated away, made a similar vow. Next time, there would be no underestimation. Next time he would know exactly what humanity was capable of, and next time the outcome would be different. Both leaders, human and alien, looked toward the stars, knowing that this was just the beginning. The alien fleet hung in space near the asteroid belt. Their formation now tightened into an aggressive arrow pointed directly at Earth. On screens across the solar system, humans watched as the enormous vessels began to move forward again. War Leader Tarok had made his decision. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Park stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the tactical display with narrowed eyes. The aliens had chosen pride over reason. Now humanity would have to respond with force. They're jamming our standard communication frequencies, Lieutenant Jin reported, her fingers flying over her console, attempting to counter. Let them jam, Park replied calmly. We expected this. Switch to the backup quantum network. Across the room, intelligence officers reported a wave of cyber attacks targeting Earth's defense systems, power grids, and communication networks. The aliens were throwing everything they had into a coordinated first strike. Cyber defenses holding, reported Commander Yoon, head of digital security. Their code is advanced, but they're attacking systems we prepared specifically for this scenario.